Okay, guys, we are live. So for those listening at home, welcome to the Dungeon Musings YouTube channel. My name is Kevin Madison, and I will be your friendly game master, I guess, this evening or this afternoon, wherever this finds you. Today, we are playing the first actual official session of our mini campaign playing Grim and Perilous Studios' Zweihander Grim and Perilous RPG. And with me today are the stars of the Sunday morning sessions, or the alt Sunday morning sessions. What we're going to do is, for the outset, at the time of recording, I guess first off, if you were waiting to join us live, my apologies for the delay in getting us started. This is our first session back after the holiday break, so we had a lot of bullshitting and catching up to do before we started going. And also because it's been a bit of a break, we don't have the level of familiarity with these characters that we did a month ago when we rolled them up before the holidays, before we played a bunch of other games. So what the plan is for today is we're going to go through these characters not only story-wise to re-familiarize ourselves with them and to reintroduce them to you folks. We're also going to go through the particular mechanics of the characters in a little bit of a fine detail, particularly their talents, so we know what special kind of tricks they have in their bag of tricks. But before we do that, though, let's do some introductions. So first up, we have Jeffrey.
Hey everybody, I'm Jeff, and today I'm going to be going through Jewel, who is a human female anchorite.
Yes. She is a ascetic hermit, I guess, who was living as effectively like a street beggar in the town of, or this city of Crossings. And next up is Sean.
Hi, I'm Sean, and I'm playing Ari, Arumawan, known as Ari, and a failed flop. You will not have heard of too many failed flops being played in your games. So
Are you saying fop or flop?
Fop.
Okay.
Or a flopped fop.
A flopped fop.
Yeah, a flopped fop.
Nice. And next up is James.
I'm a bird writer. I'm a small, one-handed, thuggish, the equivalent of a Glaswegian bouncer. And indeed, I'm a bouncer here in town.
Nice. And
in
last
between my day job of delivering beer on my cart.
Yes. That's awesome. And last but not least is Arlen.
Hi, I'm Arlen. I'm playing Albumin, or Albie, and he's a gambler who is pretty good at the cards and the dice, because I upgraded those last time I noticed.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah.
Nice. So that's right, because you guys did get some XP from the last session, so I think you're entitled to make one upgrade to your character as well too, which is to select a new upgrade from your career.
Right.
But let's see. I'll go the order I had that we went through to start with here, guys. Let's go through and refamiliarize ourselves with these characters, what they can actually do. And let's see here. I'm gonna go to the Talents and Trappings tab for Jewel. So Jewel, boy, you got quite a few talents here. Let's just familiarize ourselves with what each of them do. So you've got one called Manifest Destiny. I'll let you go through. Jeff, why don't you tell us
Sure.
what... Yeah.
Okay, so she has, like you said, Manifest Destiny, which is sort of this, I think it's like a generalization thing that lets you have a chance at any sort of thing by being, blessed, or,
Yep.
plot armor. So when using a skill you do not possess skill ranks in, add a +5 base chance.
Nice.
So you just have an extra +5 chance.
Yep.
She is determined. So when I attempt to make an extended test and I take the time to take my time, I gain an additional +10 base chance.
So that gives us a good opportunity to talk about extended tests. Extended tests are just effectively like the skill challenges or the... I'm trying to think what they were called in Star Trek Adventures, but it's I think extended tasks. It's basically just a series of successes, right? So when you're taking your time to do something else that can't be resolved in one dice roll, you get that benefit by taking your sweet time.
Right.
Okay.
She's determined to complete it.
Yes.
Then we get to sort of her combat thing. She is a clinch fighter, so she likes to get in close and grab you.
Mm-hmm.
So that does you penalize your foe's ability to resist a chokehold or dirty trick
Ooh, okay. Nice.
by a -10 base chance to their skill test. In addition, when I use a chokehold, I add an additional 1d10 to determine how much physical peril I inflict.
Nice. So that gives us an opportunity to talk about a couple of things. In each combat, each round of combat, I believe you guys have 3 action points each. And what you do is you spend those to take actions. Some actions will require you to spend more than 1. But one of the things that is important in the game is having like a 1 action. If you intend to defend against something as a reaction, you do need to reserve action points for that. The types of defenses you would be doing is like resisting. Oh, so this isn't resisting this. So that is different from resisting things. Defending is what you roll to prevent someone from hitting you or hurting you or whatever. There is, against range attacks, it's use the dodge skill, and then against melee, you use your, what do you call it, your weapon skills. With grappling, I think what your resist is for is to prevent them from being successful on those. When they have hit, it's resisting that effect. Is that right, guys, or do I have that wrong? Is resist the language for defending?
Oh, I'm gonna have to.
Here, let me take a look here.
Yeah.
We'll all learn at once here. So
Okay,
Right.
well, while you look that up, I'll add that Jewel has a set of prayer beads, or they look like normal prayer beads, but they're a specially designed Garrett.
nice. That's awesome.
For fighting. So she gets in close.
Yeah.
Maybe makes you think she's harmless, and once she's close enough to you, she will basically jump on your back, pull out her prayer beads, and choke you.
Awesome. So I found the answer to this. Resist is what you are resisting when you are the subject of perilous stunts, which is basically like the combat maneuvers in this game. The other thing I wanted to mention that was brought up by this is is the peril. So this game has 2 separate kind of like health tracks. There's your wounds track, which is your physical injuries and whatnot, and there's the peril track, which is kind of a catch-all of anything that isn't like a physical injury. So that covers things like illness or sickness or poison or fear or madness or whatever. That all kind of goes into the peril track. So what that means is when you're taking peril damage or peril effects, Jeff, then you get that you inflict a lot worse peril on people. Because normally what you're doing is rolling 1d6, which is your fury dice, which can explode on a 6, and then adding that to the result, you get to roll an extra dice on that.
A D10.
Yeah, which is pretty good. So like when you get an effect on it, you have a pretty substantial effect, or a chance of it at least.
Right. If I put someone in peril from a chokehold,
Yeah.
they could be in big trouble.
And the game, it's maybe one last thing I'll refresh our memories on too, is the game doesn't have hit points or health or anything like that. It has effectively like a target number, a damage save. So like both your physical peril and your damage, when you're trying to see if you affect someone, you make a dice roll. We compare that to their damage resistance or their peril resistance. It's not called that. I think it's called a target number. Anyway, the thresholds. It's a peril threshold or a damage threshold. If you exceed that, then you have an effect, either a wound or a peril, and how much you beat that threshold by tells us how much, how serious that effect is. So, sorry, anyway, thank you for giving me those opportunities to refresh our memories on that, Jeff. What's the next one you got?
Okay, so the next one's not actually an advantage, it's a disadvantage. She is lily-livered. Whenever you fail to resist stress, fear, or terror, you temporarily reduce the initiative and movement by -3 to a minimum of 1.
Ooh, interesting. Okay.
And then I think the last thing is maybe the upgrade that I took?
Sacred
end?
Mantra?
Sacred Mantra. You may enter a sacred trance for 1 hour. If you succeed at a resolve test at the end, of the trance, you expel all intoxication and poisons from your system.
Pretty cool. Nice keen way to get rid of a hangover, then.
Yep.
Awesome. Okay, cool. So we got, and then Jewel is armed with, and again, this being a grim and perilous game, these are not, the type of like first, starting out adventurers in D&D where they've got sword and armor and shields and whatnot. You have what?
I have a staff that she uses, a dirk, so that would be a small knife,
Yep.
and the Garrett prayer beads that was previously mentioned.
Nice. Okay, cool. So that's a good refresher for what Jewel does. And then she is, I mentioned that the sort of where we met her in Crossings was she was begging or, seeking alms and whatnot and offering insight to people in the city of Crossings in the neighborhood of Grievings across the street from the Shrine of the Ascended, where Father Gregory was located.
Right.
Okay.
Yes. And she knew Father Gregory from the church. She was actually in the church, I believe.
Yes, we
where
ended up...
she met one of the other characters. Yeah.
That's correct, yeah. So, now let's talk about Ari. Sean, why don't you tell us about Ari?
So Ari is a failed fop, or a flopping fop, as it were. And let me see here. Talents.
Sean, I'm gonna ask you to either orient your camera down just a scooch, or you got kind of a Kilroy thing going on again. Sorry.
Let me see, a Goldbergian, and that is where any skill rank you gain in alchemy, counterfeit, skullduggery, and tradecraft modifies your base chance by plus 15 instead of plus 10.
Mm-hmm.
So devices. So anytime I'm really trying to do a device, or maybe even work on a device.
Yeah, I think it's a reference to Rube Goldberg devices, right, where you're setting up these unnecessarily elaborate contraptions.
Yeah.
So it's keeping with that the gnome tinkerer kind of theme, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Next is fame and fortune. When making any skill test, I never suffer ill effects of critical failures. That's pretty solid.
Yeah.
Instead treating it as a failed skill test. So
cool.
Yeah, that's widely applicable there.
Yeah.
Silver tongue. When you attempt to persuade those of a different social class other than your own, gain a plus 20 base chance to charm tests.
Nice.
So
the reason that's important is because there is a pretty robust like social combat system in the game as well too. It's not an actual social combat, which is kind of nice, but there is the way that it works in this game, and we'll get into it when we actually have to get into it, but it sort of front ends in the encounter that stuff to figure out sort of where everyone is in relation to how they feel about each other, and it sets the difficulties for the different types of approaches to doing that. One of the factors that plays into the difficulties to set that up, and then over the course of the interactions, is the difference in social class. And it depends on what skill you're using. So like intimidate from a high class person down to a low class person can be very effective. Again, gets a bit of a bonus, whereas like charm from a high level, a high tier person to a low tier is probably not going to work.
Yeah.
So that's cool. And then what's the next one?
Worldly. When gossiping or spinning a tale, you gain a plus 20 base chance to rumor tests. So
very cool.
That's got some nice narrative possibilities there.
Definitely. He is the man about town, has his ear to the ground. Although that's probably because it's not terribly far from his ear.
Go ahead. Start it up. Go ahead.
And what is he armed with?
Let's see. He is armed with a throwing knife, a wisp dagger, and a knuckle duster. Pretty
cool.
Yeah.
All right. And I believe at the start of the last session where we found him was as a local at the Fallen Soldier.
Yes, that when he's not, in between his fopping, that's where he likes to. That's his water hole.
Nice. All right, and next up, James, why don't you tell us about Ebert?
Right, so Ebert's got carousing. So when you are intoxicated, will you be a friendly drunk or a mean drunk? The answer to that question is a mean drunk. When you're a friendly drunk, which is irrelevant, you gain a +10 base chance to charm tests when intoxicated, and when you're a mean drunk, add a +10 base chance to intimidate tests.
Nice.
So, because I've got 0 charm, so intimidate's the way to go.
Got it.
Nerves of steel. When resting in unsafe places, your peril condition track moves all steps positively to unhindered.
So that's a good one, a good opportunity to talk about how you recover from peril. Peril is, it's actually fairly quick. As long as you get like a good night's rest in a relatively safe place, you clear it completely. I believe the way it works is that if you're not in a safe place, like you're sleeping rough while you're traveling, or you're forced to kind of hide out in an alleyway, it slows the amount that you recover. You're not negated from it, but it slows the amount of recovered. What Ebert is apparently used to doing is sleeping rough, either as a veteran of sleeping hard on the ground while on campaign, or as a, drunk sleeping in the back alleys and whatnot. And so you are able to get yourself free of peril without having to suffer too much, or without having to find a comfy bed, and hearth in order to do that. So what else does he have? Veteran's Hand.
Veteran's Hand, which is you cannot hold weapons which are two-handed and must flip the results to fail any skill test requiring the use of both hands.
Nice. Because he's got one lame hand.
Oh, right.
Yeah, that is great. So, and then what is he armed with?
A quick digression. We had some points from last week, right?
Yes, so you can pick one more. Basically, you've got enough to purchase one more advancement for your character.
Yep, so I think I'll go with Menacing Demeanor, which
Ooh.
is you are intimidating and tend to act in a prickly manner. So when I succeed at an Intimidate test,
Yep.
you inflict 1d10 plus 1 of mental peril.
Very cool. So you're not only a scary drunk, you're also a traumatizing drunk. Pretty great.
So I have carry a shiv,
Yep.
a threshing flail, and knuckle duster.
Nice. Okay. And am I wrong in thinking no one has armor? Is that right? Or
I've got a very bad attitude.
Well, I have
which is my shield against the world?
Right.
leather written down.
Oh, okay.
I
So
don't know
yeah.
if it's correct.
Yeah,
but-
I am wrong. All right then. So then on Arlen, how about you tell us about Albie?
So Albie has the talents that I've got are Noble Savage, which is from his human background, which is you never suffer physical peril as a result of failed toughness tests.
Nice. So you're
Pretty useful for being, out in the wild or trying to do pull-ups, I guess, or something. I don't know.
Right. I think you're just a rough and tumble guy, right?
Yeah, he's kind of rough. He's a little scary. Not the sort of guy you want to meet in a dark alley at night.
Yeah.
Then I have Luck of the Draw, which is combined with When the Dealing's Done from my gambler profession, which is when I use a fortune point, I automatically critically succeed at the skill test that the fortune point is used on.
Yep. Nice.
But it costs me 1 step on the peril tracker.
Great. That'll be
So-
interesting to see in play, because with how relatively quickly you're able to recover from peril, and the fact that you don't take penalties to peril until you are 2 steps down the track, that'll be interesting to see how much use you make of that.
Yep. And then I have Holdout, which allows me to automatically succeed at skullduggery tests to hide something no larger than a knife on my person, which is useful because I do have a knife. I have a stiletto, as well as a flintlock pistol, and I have got basically everything else is flavorful. I've got loaded dice. That was my personal item.
Right, yeah. Because that's, for those who may not be familiar with Zweihander, the way you equip your character at the start is the archetype will tell you what gear you get, and then you also get to pick 1 piece of signature gear subject to the approval of the DM or GM that fits with your profession. And that's what everyone has taken. Now, one thing I didn't ask as well, too, was with Ebert. Where did we first meet Ebert in last session? James?
Oh, I can't remember where we were at the
So
end of the last
I
session,
believe
so
he
that-
was,
for
when we
me-
first met
He
him,
was the bouncer, wasn't
yeah, he's the
Yeah, I'm
bouncer
still-
at the Fallen Soldier, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no, absolutely that. But
Yeah.
so am I at this point as we start? Am I at the door?
I think you guys. So let's. Well, let's. So we've got that, and then the intro for Albie. Let me just quickly situate where Albie was at the start of the story, and then we'll kind of move everyone together, because I think you guys all. I think at least 3 of you were to. No, I think all 4 of you came together at the end of the first session, right? Like, Jewel and Albie came back to the Fallen Soldier to talk to you about the missing guy, and
he? We've gone to the temple, right? At some point.
Oh, did you go to the temple with everyone?
I mean,
I
I
think-
think I was there. Most of us was there.
Well, I think Albie was, and
Oh, okay.
Jewel were, and then I think they may have gone back to the bar to ask about the missing. Because remember, there was that old drunk who
Yep.
slept in the alley.
Yep.
He was
Yep.
missing, and so. But before we do that, so Albie, I think your connection with the Fallen Soldier is that's the only tavern you don't gamble at, right?
Yeah, the beer is cheap and the syphilis is avoidable, so that place is where I hang out when I'm not working.
And speaking of the avoidable syphilis, I believe that's when Asa Min, the aging down on her luck prostitute with a reputation of being a bit of an angry drunk, she hangs out at the Fallen Soldier as well too. And I think, Ari, aren't you the one who sort of knew her? Like, she was the one who would sit and drink and chat with you, or was it Albie?
Yeah, I think it was me. I think
Yeah.
that when neither of us, I mean, obviously I'm higher end, but in our related professions, if neither of us have a mark, I mean a romance, then then we hang out. We kind of sometimes we might spend the night together, or hang out and that kind of thing.
Yeah. The Grim and Perilous equivalent of Netflix and chill.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh gosh. Okay, so then I guess it's public execution and fornication. I suppose is the Grim and Perilous equivalent of that.
There you go.
There you go. So the people who you guys had met, the NPCs that we had sort of introduced into the mix last time, and let's move over to the map of crossings. One other connection all of you had in common was that you were all from the very poor neighborhood of Grievings, which is located right here.
Mm-hmm.
And Grievings, as a refresher, Grievings is... Let's see here. The poorest and most densely populated district in Crossings. Positioned above the tankards and below smokestacks on the eastern slopes of the city, it is a tangled, crowded place of tall row houses and narrow streets, made narrower by the tenants and shacks lining them. Grievings is a desperate, dangerous district whose people work as servants in coins, toil in smokestacks, and labor anywhere else they can find work in the city. Although the district is infested with vermin and riddled with disease, Grievings people are proud and independent. They look after each other and mete out their own brand of justice to those who cross them. To that end, the town watch in Crossings, the Brown Cloaks, they often don't make an appearance in Grievings. It's often left for the people of Grievings to deal with things themselves. One exception to that is Sergeant Elise, who I think we met last session. What do you guys remember about meeting Sergeant Elise? I think Jewel and Albie had definitely had interactions with her. And let me create a couple handouts here so you guys can keep notes.
So Sergeant Elise was one of the good guys, basically cared about the people of Grievings, had a list of like 4 or 5 different people who had gone missing as of that morning,
Yes.
including...
So the 5 that were missing. Oh yes, first off, guys, do we want to have... I'm going to create separate, character notes. Although I guess you can keep the notes on your character as well. What I'll do is I'll create we're going to have notes for the party, and then I'll create a tab that you guys can... I'll duplicate 4 times. You guys can keep your own character notes as well. Just lay claim to one of them. But do we want to have someone who's going to be kind of the party stenographer to keep track of kind of what's going on?
I can try. I'll give it a shot.
Okay. It seems like in our other campaigns when we've set this up, someone has sort of fallen into that role, and then other people keep notes as well.
Okay.
We're gonna, we're not gonna need quite as much of the like tracking loot and stuff like that in this game, just because it's not,
Yeah.
it's not the same.
Because we're not going to live long enough.
Oh, there's that too. It's also I'm not rolling on treasure table X on in this game. So there's party notes, boom, and you guys can feel free to lay claim to any of the personal notes and just rename it.
Okay.
If you choose to keep that. So the people who went missing thus far are, let's see here, Asa Min, and I'll put these in. I'll type this out so you can see the spelling of these fantasy names. So it's Asa Min was the prostitute. Old Pete, who was the old soldier. Trout was that orphan that you guys saw around the area.
What was the last one?
Trout.
Trout.
Okay, so I'll go through, just so you got the spelling there, I'll go through who these people were, just as a refresher, and also so you, because some of these I'm not sure you necessarily had a connection with, but I know that Asa Min, we established that Ari had a connection with her. Old Pete was a paraplegic soldier who lived in the alley behind the fallen soldier. And I think that, Ebert, you used to bring him food, right? Is that right? Yeah, okay, sorry. Trout was a young orphan who was a bit of a pickpocket in the neighborhood. I don't remember. I think, Jewel, you may have seen him lurking around the common.
Yeah, I didn't really know him, but he's someone I had seen around.
Yeah, you knew of him.
Yeah.
Enid was a fortune teller in the area, so maybe a bit of a rival to what you did, Jewel. Although it sounds like from what you'd said before, your life as an anchorite was due to actual faith in the new god, as opposed to the sort of trying to earn a living, reading tea leaves or flipping cards or things like that.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
That's right, okay. And then Tyrus was an ex-soldier who had been touched by one of the older gods, part of the old faith, Revel. Revel is effectively like the Bacchus of the setting. Wine, women's song, and also madness is the portfolio of Revel. Who do you think amongst you guys, does anyone have a connection? Anyone would have known Tyrus from around the old soldier? Or the fallen soldier? I mean, Ebert, you may have kicked him out once or twice.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
oh, yeah, and I think you...
everyone right out of there, including the group.
So when... Yeah.
Thank you.
And then the last person is Vern, who was a blind beggar with a filthy mouth. And I think, Jewel, we had established that in the sort of like small, square outside of where you would typically beg and outside of the Shrine of the Ascended, he would sit on kind of the far side and would be screaming profanities at people going by.
Right.
So, and he has gone missing as well. So
And what was the name of the officer?
Her name was Sergeant Elise, Alyse.
Excellent, thank you.
Okay. So,
And how many had disappeared? Had all these people disappeared?
they'd all disappeared over the course of, let's see here. I believe it's a matter of like a week. So it really has not been that long. That is the order of their disappearance, incidentally, as well. A week. Yeah, a week. And, of course, Father Gregory is the most recent disappearance from that. And you guys would all know Father Gregory because he's the one who runs the Shrine of the Ascended. He was he's that, like, kindly priest who lives in the, downtrodden or low-income neighborhood. He's the guy who ministers to the poor and the downtrodden, the forgotten people.
Jewel was not really concerned about any of these disappearances until he went missing.
Yeah. She may not even have been aware. You know, like we had talked about the life in grievings before, but it's short and violent and, you know, often comes to unfortunate and unfair endings.
And especially for homeless people, which were the ones that I sort of knew.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not like the, you know, that you're expected to live a long and happy life in grievings. This is, you know, the very, very hard scrabble existence that, you know, the worst circumstances you could live in like a grim and perilous setting is where these people live. The thing that is unusual is for none of these bodies to appear. You know, we talked about it before, and I think that you Ebert and Albie and Ari, you're familiar with this because you kind of know the way of the world. Jewel, you're kind of apart from it, but if someone's trying to send a message to someone else in grieving, that body's found. You know, it's there to do that. If they've been preyed upon by some of the, you know, like, it's not unfortunately not unheard of for, you know, packs of starving rats or, you know, a dog that's gone rabid to kill a kid, you know, for a body to be found too. So like even for trout, being the most vulnerable of all of those, maybe Vern is more vulnerable. You'd still find the body. It wouldn't be concealed. It wouldn't go missing. Or at the very least, you'd have some sign of them missing. The one thing that I think that would that all of this will well, first off, let's situate our scene here. I think that we had the last thing that we saw, Jewel, you had gone into Father Gregory's private study and you tried to see if there's any indication of what may have caused him to go missing. And what you found was a sketch. Do you remember what that was a sketch of?
No. It was something that my character didn't really know, though, wasn't it?
I think so, yeah. It was a horned skull.
Right.
Yeah, and you didn't have any...
It didn't really mean anything to me, but...
That's right.
I can't remember if I took this. I think I took it.
I think, yeah, I think you did, yeah. So, and if not, we can just say you pocketed it. And so what we left with was, I think, with you doing that, and then the rest of the... Where were the rest of the guys? Do you remember where you guys were, or...
I mean, if I wasn't at the temple, and you remember if I was at the temple? Maybe not. I can't remember.
I don't think you were. I think it was just me, because I think I first tried to sweet talk Jewel to get in, and then tried to sweet talk Sergeant Elise.
Yeah.
Yeah, if that's the case, and I'm probably still in the bar. What's the name of our bar again?
It is the Fallen Soldier.
Fallen Soldier. So I'm thinking I just stayed. I'm still getting my drink on at the Fallen Soldier, and bemoaning the missing Asamin, who normally I might be making out with at this point in the corner, and she hasn't been around.
Okay. So what are we picking up our scene in, guys? Do you want to pick up in the bar, or what?
Yeah, sure. Let's pick up in the bar with Albie returning and kind of thinking about, because if I remember, I don't remember if we played out the scene or if we were just going to, but that Albie had heard about these missing people, didn't know, and so was going to ask around at the bar to see if they knew, like, you know, where anybody has gone.
Okay, so let's do that. We ended on the scene with Jewel finding that, you know, that scrap of paper with the picture on it. We'll cut back to the Fallen Soldier. Albie, I think you overheard... Ari, you overheard Albie talking about, you know, the... What do you call it? The missing, or the absences or disappearances? Is that right?
Yep.
Okay. So one thing that, Ebert, that when you hear... how did you hear that Tyrus was among the disappearances? Do you remember?
You're asking me?
Ebert.
Ebert, yeah.
James, that's you.
It was old Pete was my friend, no?
Sorry?
The guy.
Old Pete definitely was your friend, yeah, but I'm asking about Tyrus. That was the guy who was touched by the veteran who was touched by Revel. You've kicked him out many times. He's probably or was before his disappearance. He's probably in his mid to late 40s. He doesn't have any crippling injuries like what you do with your hand, but he was definitely mentally affected by whatever campaign that he went on.
No, I guess the last time I'd have seen him was when he was muttering to himself and offending the barkeep.
Okay.
And I got told to sling him out the door.
James, can I get you to move your headset? Sorry,
Yep. Sorry.
Perfect.
So he was obviously off his head between alcohol and his memories, and annoying the rest of the so as you might call it, clientele, pushing it. So I hoyed him out at halfway through the night, and that was the last time I saw of him.
Nice. So then what we will see then, I guess, is you've seen Ebert. I'm trying to think how we staged this scene last time. I don't remember. Albie, did you? Because you're the one who came back from the church, I think. So how did you kind of bring the other two guys?
I talked to Ebert directly because I knew that Ebert had been giving old Pete food, and he was one of the names.
Okay, so let's pick up with that. So you're having a conversation, and Ari's overhearing this stuff. So what is it you? How did you present this to Ebert?
Hey, Ebert, have you seen old Pete recently?
Well, not for about a week since the last time I went. He just makes me feel guilty, so I went and took him some scraps down there. But I haven't seen him for a week. Last time I went down, a couple of days ago, no sign.
No sign. One of the officers of the law thinks that there are some old Pete's on a list of the disappeared.
Really? Well, I just thought he just wandered off, because he does sometimes. He tries.
Well, there's pirates.
The paraplegic wandered off.
Wandered off. Yeah. Rolled off.
You remember? Have you seen Tyrus recently?
Not that Wednesday.
So one thing, Ebert, the last time you kicked Tyrus out, and he was really, even for him, he was pretty agitated. The last time you kicked him out, he was ranting about an odd man wearing a hooded cloak who stole or who grabbed Trout, that little pickpocket that you've kicked out of the bar many times. Trout is this little shit that seems to constantly find his way into here, and Tyrus was ranting about how Trout had gone missing. And taken by this strange man in a hooded cloak. So sorry, go ahead, guys. That's just a bit of information you know, Ebert. Arlen, you were saying?
As well.
Well, and what about the Asamin and Trout, and then a beggar named Vern and Enid, and now Father Gregory is missing from his shrine.
Did you say Asamin?
Yeah, Ari.
It's not like her to be off work this long. I don't think she can afford it. This is very strange. I'm concerned about her.
Well, there's reason to be concerned, apparently. There's a bit of that going around.
Did you say you talked to? Are they called town guard? Is that what they're called?
Brown cloaks.
Brown cloaks. Did you say you talked to a brown cloak about it?
I did talk to a brown cloak about. She had a list including Asamin.
Really? A brown cloak here in Grievings?
Here in Grievings, a brown cloak who was going to look for Father Gregory. Or to talk to him.
That makes sense. That makes sense. A member of the clergy. She came in to see. And she has Asa on her list.
Asa is. Ari, do you know any of these old Pete or Trout or Enid or Tyrus or Vern. They're
Oh,
all
he's an idiot. I haven't thought of him in ages. Let me see here. Let me see. That's quite a list. That's quite a list. Who would want anything to do with these people? I mean, Ace is a jewel of the neighborhood, but the rest of these vermin, I have no idea who would even mess with him.
well, that's. I think we're all a little.
And Father Gregory's disappeared, eh?
Father Gregory was not at his. Instead of Father Gregory at his shrine was a anchorite who hadn't washed recently enough.
Oh,
Not like the brown cloak. Wink.
right.
Are you winking with your eye patch down?
Yeah.
Oh, the brown cloak was a female, eh?
Sergeant Elise
Hmm.
was
Keep an eye on her.
concerned about the people of Grievings.
She was quite young as well, too. So,
Yeah.
Elise was only in her early 20s.
Ari's mind momentarily returns to work. I'll have to put her in the book. But anyway, back to Asa. It actually is a relief that this brown cloak would have been looking for them. And I don't know. I hate to hear about Father Gregory, but perhaps there's a positive that she's getting involved because of it, and the others are being searched for as a result.
She would like us to contact her if we have any information. So if we were to get some information, be a good excuse to talk to the pretty sergeant.
I can handle that. I'm on it.
Yeah. And then you could tell me the information so that I can talk to her.
Of course. Of course.
Edward, you.
Well, I don't know. I can go back down around old Pete's place and see if I can get into his old shack and have a rummage around.
Bess, that would just be going out back at the alley.
Well,
Yeah, that'll be a very short trip.
It's a little lean-to,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
We can
Everett's
confirm
being
for
kind.
ourselves if old Pete is out there. and
Everett's being kind, trying to
I'll be
call an apartment.
Albia'll lead the way out like the back door so that we can at least check if old Pete is out there and back.
Yeah. You check out back, and these just for a cursory look, there's nothing there. Old Pete's still gone, and he's sort of the, he would be one of the regular fixtures here. Like when you would slip out back to take a piss, he'd be one of the ones back there you'd see. So
Could I perhaps scrutinize the area in order to see if there's any information we could pick up?
yeah, absolutely. Let's take a look here. So scrutinize is one of the skills. Let me turn to the page here. So for those listening at home, this is our first time running Zweihander, so you'll have to forgive us taking our sweet time going through to figure out what we're doing here. But let's see here, scrutinize. So this is scrutinize is actually different from it. Scrutinize is more like what insight does in other role-playing games. The one.
Okay.
Yeah. Scrutinize is judging the way it's phrased. It represents the ability to understand motives and underlying intentions of others. It relies on hearing and vision to assess each participant's part in a conversation. I think the
Versus like awareness to sense, like to look for tracks or something like that.
Awareness represents the ability to visually notice minute details and sounds, sense within the air, watch for ambush, and find hidden objects, and spot contrivances designed to trap or kill you. Doesn't allow you to see through lies, sense motives, or innuendo. Use scrutinize for that, or if you want to listen in on a conversation, use eavesdrop. That's kind of cool. They give you in the actual skill descriptions, like, no, this is not what you're looking for. Look over here.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's give that a. I think if you're taking your time to do this, I'll give you a plus 20% to this check.
All right, roll in awareness, situational modifier 20.
Nice. I got
That's
that.
just barely.
So what you find is that there is no, there's, I mean, nothing. I guess like what it sounds like you're looking for is like signs of violence or things like that.
Yeah. I'm not like, I assume there's too much foot traffic to be like, oh, this is old Pete's mangled footprint right here, and we can see exactly
Again,
where
he's
he
a
went.
paraplegic, so.
Oh yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought he. Yep.
Yep.
Poor,
Unlikely.
Poor Pete.
So strange. We see no footprints here.
No footprints. But yeah, like signs of violence, or if there's you know the smell of blood in the air or something like that, that might.
Yeah, no, there's no sign of, or at least you're not able to turn it over. But as you say, the alley sees a lot of foot traffic and detritus and whatnot, and it is effectively the latrine for the bar. So, you know, it's if it's a week since his disappearance, then there's a lot out here. What you can see is the meager possessions that he did actually have. You know, like the little, like, board or whatever that he would sleep on. It's now soiled and whatnot, but it's still there. So, effectively, his home, in the alleyway, it's all there. His little beggar cup that he would have is, been kicked further down the alleyway, and it's maybe broken at this point, but it's there still. So, the only thing that that does seem to be missing from here is Pete himself.
What do you think about that, guys? I don't think he went anywhere by himself. Not take what little possessions he had.
I'm trying to think of what these people would be doing together. And I can't think of any reason.
Well, they're all pretty vulnerable targets.
I guess that'd be true. I mean, if you include Father Gregory seems the least, but
yeah, but even Father Gregory hanging out in grievings and hanging with the vulnerable, I'm sure he left the shrine to administer to the poor or something at some point.
Mm.
Yeah. No, I mean, there's not exactly any fighters on this group.
No. That's true. Ebbard, maybe they should have tried to take you, huh? Kind of elbow him a little bit.
You'd have shown him. James Ebbard.
Yeah.
Well, about what time of day is it at this point?
It's probably, I don't know, like mid-afternoon. No, because you guys met with her in the morning, I think. You had a brief conversation, so it's probably like noonish or shortly thereafter.
Okay.
Well, drinkings began in earnest then.
Yeah. So let's quickly talk about just the way to approach these types of games. So again, this particular adventure, not necessarily the game, but the adventure is more of a mystery. So that means that it is going to, and forgive me for being condescending here, but it isn't the kind of thing where, there's going to be like the next step in the story is going to necessarily present itself. It is a matter of you guys going and engaging and finding out how to sort of proceed through the story. It's the difference between a D&D camp adventure and a Call of Cthulhu adventure is a very different way of you engaging and seeing the story, unfold before you. This is much closer to the latter than it is the former.
Do I know where Asamin sleeps?
Yeah,
I would, right? I would.
Yeah.
Since I've been there and
next to you as often as possible.
Yeah, she's got so she has a room in like a flop house where she would typically stay and service clientele, if not the back alleys.
Well, it would seem to me that given this list of people missing, that the shrine offers the most intact place to take a look around. Is that possible? Did you do that?
I talked my way in earlier today. We could probably go back and see about getting the anchorite to let us in.
What did you see anything on your initial inspection?
I don't think I looked out of character. I don't think I really
Yeah.
looked for anything out of place. I mostly just hung out in the
Yeah,
the
you
main
were chatting
chamber.
with Jewel, I think, when Sergeant Elise showed up.
Yeah.
You were just seeing if he returned, if Father Gregory would return while you were there.
Well, it's always good to give a bit of coin to the gods to make some more coin.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we should return to because these other folk have no place or don't at least have a place of their own, and Father Gregory is the only one that I can think of that would have a place to lay his head that no one would probably mess with. Should we take a look?
That sounds fine to me.
Okay. So, and what about you, Ebert? What are you thinking here? I know you don't really care about Tyrus going missing, but old Pete did seem to be a kindred soul. What are you thinking? What's going on in your head?
Yeah, somehow that old bloke got under my skin. So, is there anybody else that I've seen him hang out with that's ever shown him any interest?
Not real. I mean, he really is just a beggar who went outside. He, as is likely the not surprising, someone who has suffered that kind of physical deformity and is still alive and still able to carve out some kind of living. It's not a very pleasant living, which means he's not a very pleasant man. So I think that you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but it's likely the reason that you have any kind of connection with him whatsoever is because he was just a very unlikable sort in the same way that you're kind of an unlikable sort, and that what's that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So that may be why you had the connection, why you bothered bringing him food or whatever else, because him yelling at people as they're taking a piss, trying to get money from them, probably was not the most effective way to support himself. So he may have been living on like the good graces of the owner of the fallen soldier, who's a guy named Query and Verge. And I'll put that in the chat as well too. And your own good nature.
Okay. Now, is there anything around? You had Trout that was wandering around as a street kid, but is there any gangs of kids around about? Because if I'm hanging outside the
Yep.
door of the bar all day and all night,
Yep. There are a couple local gangs, as is often the case that people band together to try and form kind of ways of keeping each other protected, or to exploit the vulnerable. The Trout, as far as you know, I think is that. Let's see here. I'll say that you knew that Trout was just like a lot of kids, was just sort of like a opportunity offender. He would grab what he could, but he wasn't, as far as you know, part of any kind of organization. If so, he wouldn't have been trying to sneak into the fallen soldier to try and grab stuff.
yep. But do I know any of the street gangs who might have been seeing stuff going around with Pete? They may not have been friends with him, but they'll have known him and seen him and kept an eye on the street.
You could, yeah. There's definitely, you definitely would be familiar with the sorts who would be, for like, say, the block around you, for if there is a gang, which there probably is, who would be keeping an eye out there, or to, at the very least, the people who would be keeping an eye on the streets, even if they're not part of the gang.
So can I go out there and reach out to any signs of those gangs to see if they've seen anything?
Yeah, absolutely. And so it sounds like the Albie and Ari are going to head to the Shrine of the Ascended, and then Ebert's going to ask around. Is that what I'm hearing here?
Yep.
Okay. So let's continue on with Ebert for a couple minutes, and then we'll cut over and get Jeff into the game. So what we'll do here is, I think I think what I'll say is, so there is an actual, well, charm is what you can use to sort of, to gather sort of information, but you can also use intimidate. I think that Ebert likely...
Yeah, I'm on the intimidate line.
Great. Okay. So who do you think it is that you would be approaching to sort of like shake this down? Is it like a gang leader or like a mid-level kind of guy, or?
Yeah, I think it'd be a young mid-level kid that I've just seen hanging around a lot, and I just see him on the corner and grab him by the scruff of the neck, pull him around the corner and up against the wall.
Okay. So we'll
say, "Old Pete."
His name's going to be Gerhardt. So you grab, Gerhardt is sort of talking big to some of the lower level, like the, street kids, I guess, that have been inducted into the gang. He's chirping off to them. How old do you think he is?
He's probably about 14.
Okay, so he's quite young as well, too. So you grab this kid and bring him over. Would you give me an interrogation or a intimidate check, please? I'll try and set this, and then we'll do a thing. And I think because of the size differential and age differential, I am going to give you plus 20 to this. Do you have any other factors you think might play in here?
I think I'll have my... I'm not going to draw a weapon or anything like this. I'm just going to...
Okay.
Just pure... I'll stick with this.
Go ahead. So you grab him by your one good hand, pull him around. Wait, you have 0 in Intimidate? Oh, you're not trained in Intimidate at all?
Not trained in it.
Okay. So that is still a success, though, with the modifier. So you grab this kid and you bring him around, and he's not very old, and it's probably like 10-year-olds he's talking to.
Oh, it's not. It's not a 0. It's because you put plus 20 instead of just 20 in the box. So it...
Yeah, right. So when you're doing your modifiers, you do have to put the modifier for a minus. This is a roll 20 weird thing, where if you put the... if it asks you for a modifier, you can put the minus whatever, but if it's a positive modifier, just put the number in.
Okay. Yep.
That still is a success, though. It's not a crit, but it's a success. So you grab this kid and pull him over and jam him against the wall. What do you say?
Gerhardt, you punk. What's... My old mate, old Pete. He's disappeared. What have you seen? What's say? He didn't just disappear on his own.
So these guys will be let's see here, the Dirt Daggers is the name of his gang. So you grab him and you put him up, and he is really taken off, off his off the sort of tough kid, face that he puts on for a lot of the other members, especially for the kids. So you can picture in the film version of this, he's sort of chirping off and bragging to these kids, and then suddenly this great big shadow comes behind him, and then suddenly grabs him on the shoulder, spins him around, and jams him against the wall. The younger kids all scatter and go running off in different directions, and the sort of confident, smart-ass teen that we saw is now a terrified child as this huge, burly-looking man is shouting down at him. And he looks up and he says, "I don't know nothing about this. I don't know. The daggers had nothing to do with it. I don't know nothing about Pete going missing. We didn't do anything to him."
I get that. But did you see anybody around here? He didn't disappear on his own. Somebody else did it. So who was there? Who's not been in this district that you don't know?
I don't... He kind of looks up and down. And he says, "You didn't hear it from me. We don't have any problem with the Rude Boys, but there were some people, fancy people, who were in here about a week ago. They came in and they were looking to... We hear the Rude Boys scored some sweet deal with them. And they've been... it's outside their territory, but they've been keeping everyone away from old Moorhouse. Letting nobody get near that place."
Old Moorhouse, okay.
So I think, and you...
But fancy folk round here?
They were all perfumed up, I hear, fancy silks, nice looking, but their faces hidden. They've been asking around, looking for... They didn't know their asshole from their elbow. They were trying to figure out who, they could hire. Rude Boys got it. Rude Boys got their money. And they've been keeping everybody away from Moorhouse. Although, why do you got to keep people away from that place? No one's going to go in there. And Ebert, I think as a native of Grievings, you know that Moorhouse is kind of that, like, that haunted house in every neighborhood. It's the place that everyone knows from a kid. Jesus, you do not go near there.
It's in Grieving?
In Grievings, yeah. All of you guys would, who are familiar with Grievings, you would know that this is the Moorhouse is the place you don't go to. You know, it's got a really sinister history behind it, and depending on how educated or how curious your characters are, that would determine how much you might know about the history behind Moorhouse. It may just be like that you learned as a kid, don't go there, or you may, you can tell me whether your character would have known more by virtue of who they grew up with or whatever. So, but Edward, I think maybe you strike me as a fairly practical sort, so you just know that it's a haunted house, and that's the extent of it. Is that fair to say?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I didn't read up in the library on it.
Yeah,
No.
yes, do I need to know more than this? No. So yeah, that's what he says. They were hired about a week ago to keep people away from it. That's all I know. That's the strange people I've seen.
All right, get away out of here then, lad. Good.
Okay.
Yep.
And he bolts off into somewhere else, And Ebert, you know that everyone else, or the other two that you were talking to, they've been heading to the Shrine of the Ascended. Are you going to meet up with them there?
Yeah, I'll head there.
Okay. So cutting back to the other two guys, so Ari, where will we find Jewel when Ari and Albie show up at the Shrine of the Ascended, Jeff?
I think she's probably in, like, whatever they would have for a little chapel library or whatever, and she's got this piece of paper out, and she is looking through the books and trying to learn anything she can about this symbol.
So the shrine itself...
Maybe she can't even read, but she's just trying to, like, match them up.
Yeah. So let's talk about the shrine itself again. So the shrine is a very modest worship area with pews, an altar, and an icon of Astrid, the martyr to the new god, pierced with swords. The door to the worship area leads to a small hall with doors on either side. One of them leads to the small room where Gregory's flock who need shelter. It's kind of like the homeless shelter for the shrine. And then the other door leads to his quarters. So there really isn't... you could look around at the books that he's got in there, but it is a very modest private library.
That would probably be his books then, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, exactly, but it's more than she has.
Sure. So how would Ari and Albie approach the shrine then? Knowing that sort of like the way it's laid out is you walk in the door. There are doors on either side where, one side is where the homeless or the people in need of shelter would go. The other side is Father Gregory's house. And then straight down is to the kind of very modest, if you're picturing like an old west small town church, like something that was built by the people there with the very meager supplies that are available. That's kind of how I'm picturing this. This is a tiny roadside chapel, more so than like an actual church or whatever. So how do you guys approach this place?
Probably his front door, right?
Okay.
Start with that first.
Yeah. Do you knock or do you just walk in?
Oh, but well, if its door's closed, I would knock.
Okay. So, Jewel, you hear a knock at the door as you're looking through this stuff. Thus far, you found nothing to match up with the unnerving horned skull illustration that you found hidden in his materials.
Okay.
Everything else. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Everything else is like there's a well-worn book, a holy book, an Enchiridion of some kind that is, just prayers to the new god. Services for different things like marriages, burials, whatever the new god equivalent of christening is. I guess it wouldn't be called christening, for one. Do you think you're still in his quarters when the door knocks, or do you think you've gone else? There's not really anywhere else to spread.
I think as soon as there's a knock at the door, I would sort of rush out of his quarters because it's not really somewhere where I'm supposed to be necessarily.
Let's do this. Would you give me an awareness check, please? I'll give you a plus. Actually, I'll make it flat, and I'll tell you what it's for in a moment. So no modifier to this roll. Let's see here.
Awareness is... Oh, there it is.
Awareness is under perception, I think. Yeah. 99 is a crit failure. Fantastic.
Nice.
Okay, so actually, let's quickly talk about the meta currency in the game too, because it does have. There's 2 meta currency in the game. There's fate, which each of you has 1 point of. I think those of you who took a disadvantage have 2. And there is
One hand, 2 fate.
fortune pool, which is every session you start with 1 point of fortune for each of you guys. I have misfortune, which I can use to screw you over. Fortune points can be used to fail, to re-roll a failed skill test, to gain 1 additional action point per turn, to roll after you roll a d6 for a chaos or a fury dice. You can spend it to treat it as if it rolled a 6, and it is not keyed to each individual player. It is a pool from which you guys can draw. So there's 4 points in the fortune pool right now. Do you want to re-roll that, or do you want to roll with the crit, because it'll be kind of funny?
Yeah, I'm totally cool with the crit failures.
All right.
I find them interesting.
So I think. So what do you do as you come racing out of the Father Gregory's study? What do you do next?
Like actually race to the door, or
Okay.
like go answer the door, not necessarily race to it. But...
Okay. So you race. You make your way over to the door. You answer the door, and what you see standing there are Albie and Ari. Albie, you've met before. Ari, I don't know if you guys know each other.
Probably not.
No.
No.
So you answer the door, and it's the same disheveled woman who you had met before Albie. What happens next, guys?
I'm gonna say because she rushed out of there and like tried to close his books and put them back how she thinks the room was, in sort of her absent-minded, she's still holding the piece of paper with the symbol on it.
Yeah.
As she answers the door.
Okay. Well, actually, I've got a different thing for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, sure.
So
I
you
was gonna
guys.
say she kind of yeah.
Yeah.
And so she would answer, "Oh, you're back."
Yeah, is
Albumin,
Father Gregory
wasn't it?
returned?
No, he has still not returned.
Do you mind if we, we're kind of looking around. You remember what Sergeant Elise said, that we need to figure out some information. We were wondering if we could, look around a little bit, maybe get your help to figure out what's up with Father Gregory.
And you've brought this little gentleman to help you?
I beg your pardon.
Aren't you small?
Oh, I undoubtedly, but
Okay. I referred to you as a gentleman.
big eyebrow. Going to keep an eye on this one.
Okay. So
Yeah, gentleman is subjective.
as you guys step inside, would Albie and Ari, would you guys each give me an awareness check, please? I'll give you plus 10.
Where do I find that again?
It is under your skill tab, I think, and it is the
Perception.
yeah, perception.
Perception, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Got it.
Ooh, really good roll for Ari. And a success for Albie as well, too. So as you guys step in, what you see as Joel steps out of the way, in the middle of the hallway, there is a piece of paper. Looks like it's been folded, that is sitting in the... like it's laying open, but it was folded at one point, sitting just near, just outside in the hallway, outside of the open door leading into Father Gregory's room.
Ooh.
Joel, you look over and you notice that it's sitting on the ground, and you know precisely what that is now.
She tries to like casually walk over and like, put her foot on it and like
Sure. That's awesome.
cover it up.
So let's do this. Why don't you give us I think that is Guile. Let me just quickly see what Guile does again. And then we'll have that
Because
contested
she
by...
doesn't quite know these people.
Trickery and lies. So are you trying to like, so there's skullduggery, which is the like physical kind of, pawning and whatnot, and Guile is trying to like frame a conversation to force it in a direction. Are you trying to like talk to them, or is it like you're physically trying to just like surreptitiously make your way over, step on it, and put it underneath your...
Yeah, like I think she's just trying to be like sneaky.
Okay.
And get it out of their vision before they notice it.
So I think I think you're going to need to get a critical success in order to pull one over on them. So let's have Ari and Albie and Jewel. Ari and Albie give me a awareness check, and Jewel give us a skullduggery check, please. Let's see how everyone does. Ooh, crit failure on Ari's part.
That's a big failure on mine.
Failure on Albie, so let's see if he gets the crit success here. Oh, damn!
Wow.
Oh my god. So the way it plays out, guys, is I think Albie, you're likely the one to blame for, or sorry, Ari is the one to blame for why you guys suddenly forget about this paper being in the middle of the thing. How do we think this plays out? Jeff's got the crit success, and Sean's got a crit failure, so I'll let you guys tell us how this scene plays out.
My best guess is that that Ari sees the paper, but instead of being curious in the paper, it leads him to see that the door is open. And so he's much more fascinated by, like, you know, what is his door open for? And, like, goes striding into the room,
Yeah.
basically just walking right past Jewel in the paper.
Yep. So then the paper, maybe it's disturbed as he races past it. It swirls over, and it is incredibly easy for you to just step on it. And then how do you retrieve it, Joel?
Well, once he strolls past, then I sort of, just bend down and, pretend I'm fixing maybe the hem of my dress or something, and grab it.
Why don't you fake drop your prayer beads?
Yeah, something like that.
Okay,
Yeah.
so they clatter to the... Yeah. Okay, so the paper is not a factor as you guys all step inside here. Now, why don't we say, guys, that let's take our quick break. Normally we take our mid-session break at halfway point, but we did start late today. I would like to take it now just so that Anna Banana can get a moment outside. So we'll take a 5-minute break right now, and let me just... normally I would prefer to do this when we actually are finished a scene, but what we'll do is we'll come back and start playing through what's happening in the chapel, and then we'll have Ebert introduced to this as well, because I don't think it took him terribly long to find you guys. And let me put a bit of intermission music on here. What's this one here? Ooh, that's creepy. Nice. Okay, so for those listening at home, we'll be back in 5 minutes.
Cool.
Okay. Good girl. Oh. All right, sorry about that, guys.
No problem.
Ooh, for those listening at home, I got a new puppy in the house, so she requires a lot more bathroom breaks than. If I don't want to be cleaning up messes after the thing. Checking with chat here. Mo, hey, what's shaking? Ice King, howdy, howdy. Ice King's advice, as always, is to cast magic missile. Brian, long shot, howdy, guys. Sean, in there. AWOL, it's so freaking easy to stream OSR content every day. It's very difficult to make the content interesting. I don't know. I don't know what that means. Also, big tip, F1 maximizes your windows so you don't need to see your tabs. Okay, thanks for the advice. Bit more presentable. Well, that's, thanks. Yeah, I don't think I'll do that, but I appreciate the advice. I don't know what the comment about make it interesting means. If you're saying that the content is interesting, that's great. If you're saying that it isn't interesting, I don't know why you're watching. But okay, so guys, we had left you guys in coming into the chapel, the Shrine of the Ascended. What happens next, guys? So
Well, it sounds like you guys were going to look around the bedroom.
Yeah. I think that was the plan.
okay, so you make your way into the bedroom, and I think by virtue of that crit failure, what you find is a room that's in a bit of disarray. There are a simple bed in there. There's a simple desk, writing desk on which a holy book, papers, a quill, pot of ink, and a fine bag of sand. And it looks like a lot of the books have been laid open as well too, as if someone was in the midst of doing research in here. Let me just hit reconnect here. Oh, there we go. I lost you, Sean. I don't know why. Can you guys see Sean right now?
I cannot.
No, just his icon.
Yeah. Did we lose Sean in chat? No, he's still there in the Hangout. Wait, he might be frozen in the Hangout. Yeah, he's frozen in the Hangout, so let's give him a second. Well, we can start off with your Albie. What do you make of this?
Well, the obvious thing is that, like,
Oops, sorry. I see Canada Post stopped outside my house. One sec here, guys. And Anna Banana's chirping. I'll be right back. Sorry, forgive me. You guys feel free to talk about what you want to make of what you want to look for.
Are you assuming that Jewel's been poking around?
That's probably, on Albie's mind. I think the obvious thing, what I was going to say, is that it's obvious that Father Gregory wasn't planning on staying away, right? If all of his shit is here,
Right.
it's not like he left intentionally with no plan to come back. So,
Right. I do think that Jewel plans on showing you guys this picture. At this point, she just doesn't know you very well.
Yep.
She's trying to see which side you're on, like whether you're, here to help or here to cover up what's going on. She now thinks something sinister is going on because of this picture, but...
uh-oh, Sean dropped from Roll20 and the Hangout.
Maybe he's having computer problems.
Maybe.
It's been known to happen.
It does. It's, as many people as we play with, it's rare to have a session without technical difficulties.
Basically.
Yeah.
Well, he said he was going to have problems with his mouse, right? But doesn't quite explain them. Evidently needs batteries for his camera as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Doo-doo.
Sorry about that guy. Oh, did we lose Sean altogether?
We lost Sean from the game and the hangout.
And the hang.
We're
Okay,
not
so we'll just
sure.
keep going on here to figure out until we figure it out otherwise. It's
Ari's just sulking after the small gentleman comment.
oh. So the what I'll say is that, so it's nice that oh awesome that Canada Post delivers on Sundays, because it's kind of cool getting the surprises. Eclipse Phase Second Edition just showed up
Nice.
from kickstarting it. Yeah. So that's pretty awesome.
I have to say that given the package turns up every Sunday, is it still a surprise?
It's only the government workers who apparently work on the Sundays, because FedEx, UPS, and DHL don't deliver on Sundays. But Canada Post, those poor guys and gals, end up working every weekend. So, what is? Put that down, and I'll take a look at that later. Ari, what is your plan here? What are you looking? You've seen the sort of state of like semi-research that's going on here. What do you what happens?
So my thought is that it's obvious just from looking around that Father Gregory didn't like choose to pick up and leave.
Yeah.
Right. His shit's still here. So I think I'm gonna ask Jewel about, did we talk about it? Father Gregory didn't have any plans to go anywhere, did he?
None that he had informed me of.
Mm.
And it's rare for him to.
It's rare
Believe it
for him
all.
to not be here at the church.
Yeah.
He's very devoted to the people here.
Hmm.
This is the first time, as long as I've known him, that he's not been here.
And then I'm gonna kind of gesture over towards the books and say, is that his reading or?
I was here going through his things.
Going through his things.
Well, as you said, what was her name? Sergeant Elise
Sergeant Elise, yeah.
had told us to look for clues,
Mm.
and so I thought the first place to check would be his room.
Did you find anything?
Well,
So, if you are, this is where Guile would definitely come in, and where, what's the other one we were talking about? It is
Scrutinize?
Scrutinize, yes. So, Guile and Scrutinize, are you intent on trying to conceal this from him? Jewel?
well, it's more that Jewel doesn't really know Sean's character yet. Like, he's just shown up, and so she wasn't sure what she wanted to share and what,
Sure. What are the concerns
So
about
I guess
Sean's character? Like, he's a gnome. He's dressed as kind of a little bit shabby, but kind of upper
no, he's
class.
just a stranger. Like, he just
Fair
showed
enough.
up. He hasn't really said any.
Yeah.
I said, you brought this little gentleman to help you, and he sort of, made a face, or like he didn't really, introduce himself or say much to that. So
Yeah.
I guess she just doesn't know him. It's not that she, she sort of knows Albion and understands that he's here to help, but, who's this new guy? So I think maybe she would, maybe like take, Albie out of the room and show him the paper if
Okay.
Sean's character's still sort of looking around. We can figure that out when
Sure.
Sean gets
Well,
back.
we'll see. Well, we can say that if for Sean's absence, Ari is sort of looking through in more detail through the pictures. He's opening the drawers and looking in them, and maybe you have an opportunity to say, You know, come here,
Yeah.
come here.
Yeah, like exactly. You say like, "Did you find anything?" And rather than answer, she sort of like pulls you out. Pulls you out of the room and shows you the paper that she found.
And I don't have any type of insight into what this symbol is.
If you take a look at it, I mean, I think, let's see here, what would that be? Intelligence, maybe intelligence education or intelligence folklore. Each of those might give you some insight to it. Now I'll give you a plus 10 to the check as well.
Okay, I'll do folklore
Okay.
plus 10.
I think folklore was what I rolled.
Okay. So obviously a horned demon skull, or something that looks like that, a fusing of semi-distorted humanoid skull with giant horns coming out of it, does not have associations with the cult of the new god.
Yeah.
It is a symbol of the dark, secretive worship of those who may worship the forces of hell, or the unspeakable, nihilistic cults that worship the outer dark. And it's not even cults; like those things are really more like random individuals. The forces, the diabolic, I guess, like the diabolic cults. There is a structure there because there's a structure to hell. The cults devoted to the maddening, unknowable gods of the outer dark. That stuff is,
Those are two separate. There's like hell, and then there's like Lovecraftian style.
Absolutely.
Weird entities.
Yeah. And those things are more like random. Those touched by those gods who are on their own. There's not a lot to offer in reward for organized worship. In that it's more individuals touched by the power or presence of those entities. This seems to be more of the diabolic.
Okay. So Albie's gonna kind of lean in and say, "Where did you find this?"
It was in his bedroom, right?
It was in his desk.
I found it in his desk. I don't know if it was something he was studying or if it was placed there, but it definitely doesn't seem like something Father Gregory would normally be involved with.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't.
And I found it to be a dark portent.
Let's say that around this time, Everett comes walking up to the church as well too. How does Everett walk into the shrine? Does he bother knocking, or is he right in?
Yeah, I'll just barge right in.
Okay, doors thrown open, and you guys can hear the heavy footsteps of a large man walking in. And I guess where you guys were talking is probably in the chapel itself, like in the sort of area of the pews. You look over and you see Ebert walking his way in.
I think as the noise of the doors open, Albie, you see that kind of instinctive reflex reach for his dagger for a second, and then once he sees that it's Ebert, he kind of slowly moves away from that.
Okay. Awesome. So Ebert, you walk in and you can see Jewel, and I guess you have not met Jewel thus far. So it's a fairly filthy young woman who dressed in kind of tattered rags and whatnot, talking to Albie.
So I'll clump my way up to Albie to say, "Okay, I found out something. There's some toffee pricks wandering around our district, and they're hanging out at the old Moorhouse, the old ghost house. Can't find out any more about it, but they ain't from round here, and they turned up about the time that people started disappearing."
Jewel looks
Have
at
you
him.
found out here?
So what was that, Jeff? You were going to say something?
Yeah, I was saying Jewel looks at him and says, "Hi, I'm Jewel, and you are..."
This is Ebert Ryder. He's a friend.
Also helping with our investigation.
He was friends with one of the Taken.
I
As are, I suppose, we're
So who's
all.
she? Who's she? I ain't seen her about.
She's well, Jewel, do you want to
My name's
explain your position here, or?
Jewel here. I help Father Gregory out with things. I'm very concerned for his disappearance.
I can
Well, and
imagine
you,
them
Jewel,
priests are
you
all
knew a
alike.
couple of the disappeared too, didn't you?
I do know.
Vern and Trout.
Yes, I do.
Sorry,
Yeah.
James, you were going to say something as well?
Yeah.
No, good. I was just gonna say, yeah, I could bet you a sister, the old priest. I know what they're like.
So what happens next, guys? It sounds like I'm seeing Sean's not
Jewel
back in.
just laughs that off. She's not really.
Yeah, offended. Okay. So, Ebert, you were saying that there was toffee-nosed guys in the neighborhood.
Yeah, so they've been hanging out at the old Moor House. It's a bouncy old place that's been abandoned. Everybody avoids it.
So, having grown up here, how much do you think that Jewel? Jewel, I mean, you're an ascetic, so I imagine that you don't. That's if you do know about Moorhouse, that's the extent of what you know.
Yeah, probably.
Okay, and then, but Albie does seem to be more of a man about town and a little more curious. Do you think he may have been told a little more about it?
Yeah, he may know a bit of, he had a friend who on a dare went in and was never right or something like that. I don't know exactly what's going on there, but.
So what you know is that in the Grievings, we've already kind of talked about how awful Grievings is. In the most rundown part of Grievings, their Moorhouse stands as a two-story building of stone with a partly collapsed peak roof. Dead grass chokes the small yard out front, and boards cover the house's windows and front door. What you know is that the reason that people don't go in there is because it's said that there was a diabolist who lived in Moorhouse well before, decades before you were ever born. And ever since then, no one has gone into that residence. Grievings, it really isn't a matter of that it grew up as a slum and it's always been a slum. Grievings is a place that was at one point a nice or prosperous neighborhood. By virtue of the way they describe it with the row houses and stuff like that, you can picture this as a neighborhood that has gone through substantial decline in the years, the years or the centuries since the neighborhood was thriving. So it is, a carcass of what was once a nice neighborhood as opposed to a place that's always been a slum. And Moorhouse is it's just the most iconic of the, dilapidated and don't go in there kind of areas. So that's what Albie, from growing up. Why would you have to pay anyone to keep out of there? Why would you go in there in the first place?
So Albie's gonna kind of grasp a hold of the paper and Jewel. Are you gonna let him take it, or are you gonna?
Yeah. Well, now that now that she's shown Albie, she's kind of put it in his court of, does he trust these other two?
Yeah. So Albie's gonna kind of examine it for a second again, and then turn it around and hold it up to both of them and say, "This thing reminds me of some diabolic stories I heard about the Moorhouse."
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if there's a connection between what's going on there and this particular symbol.
Maybe Father Gregory learned of something that was going on there and was doing his own investigation into the missing persons and got caught up in something. Maybe he's in big trouble.
You know Father Gregory well enough, Jewel, that he certainly was involved in the community.
Right, and he knew several of the missing through his missions here. Maybe he took it on his own to investigate and has gotten himself in over his head. Maybe we should head there immediately. See what we can see.
So, you know about the house's reputation, right, Jewel?
Not really.
Well, it's
Cursed?
I don't know if it's actually cursed, but what I've heard is that it was home to a cultist at one point. And nobody, it's been abandoned for a long time, and it's not especially if ever you said that there's a gang keeping people away.
No, I just spoke to some lad in a street gang. That's how I found out about this.
No. But you said that the street lad said that
Oh, there was a group of them, it said.
a group
Not
of
just
them
one of them.
keeping people away from the Morehouse, which is already a place that you don't really want to go.
Yeah, in the same way that like the Dirt Daggers are one of the local kind of gangs, the Rude Boys are another one of the local gangs. And that's what the kid was talking about, that the Rude Boys were hired by these, fancy folk to keep people away from Morehouse. Though that's kind of like, we're going to hire armed guards to keep people away from the city dump.
Yep.
Like, why would anyone want to go there in the first place anyway?
Well,
So we
it's
may
all
not be
pretty
able to
suspicious.
investigate.
Maybe we could at least case the joint before we rush in blindly.
Well, we should at least tell Sergeant Elise of our findings before we head in. So that if something were to happen to us, she would know to bring the browncoats there. Should we meet up with Sergeant Elise first?
So I think, just as context for the thing, remember that the brown cloaks in general don't give a shit what happens in grievings.
Yep.
So just as a
And if
point
there's,
of
like,
about the
Just her.
yeah, she was taking a personal interest in it, but it's if there's something happening in grievings,
Well, I'm never one to turn down a chance to at least send a message to Sergeant Elise.
Yeah.
So maybe we could go back into Father Gregory's room, and does he have like a writing utensil and some stuff to leave a note?
Yeah. And you can see number 1 on the map here, guys, right in the center there. That is the Brown Cloak headquarters.
So, dear Sergeant Elise, it's Albumin.
Forgive me, but is Albie lettered?
I don't know. Are you not automatically lettered in this?
I can't remember.
He doesn't have any ranks in education.
Let's take a look at the education skill. Education represents both literacy and schooling. I don't know. Let's just do a quick search in here. Anyone in chat who's familiar with Zweihander, feel free to comment if everyone is automatically literate or not. Language is 71. How about you? It's on that.
Yeah, like I don't remember getting any languages or anything.
Yeah.
Well, we could say that Albie is like barely lettered because that might make it funnier.
Yeah.
This note could have some humor too.
How are you, Sergeant Elise?
Here we go. No, I got it.
And I'm sure
Page 71. It's if you have education, then you can read and write.
Okay.
So
no
does anyone have any ranks in read and write or in education?
Where's education?
It's
Ari's back.
Skill.
Sean, can you hear us?
Yeah.
Oh, there it is. No.
Yep.
I always
can.
assumed that
Excellent.
Jewel couldn't read and write.
Okay. So, what we're talking about, Sean? So, Ari's been at this point kind of mussing around in the Father Gregory's room, and then you've now walked out, and you can see Ebert has actually arrived as well too. And Albie, Ebert, and Jewel are talking about what to do. You found only like the personal effects of Father Gregory, which are very meager. There's this holy book that's open. There's some pages that have been spread across as if someone was doing research. Mm-hmm. And you've found, apart from that limited amount of stuff, you've searched through all the, the cupboards and whatnot, and there's nothing there. You walk out and you can see Albie currently has a piece of paper in his hand and is talking to the other guys. What we were talking about mechanically out of character is who has a rank in education, because that's what you need to actually be literate.
All right.
And I think, sorry, did you say Jewel is literate?
No, she's not.
She's not? Albie's not?
I
Albie's not.
She
Okay.
wasn't.
How about Ebert? I'm kidding.
I heard somebody in the bar talk about education once.
Nice. How about Ari? Does Ari have a rank in education?
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. The techno spirits
about it
strike
for a long
again.
time.
I can take a look at his character sheet. What am I doing here? I have access to that. Education. No points in it. So none of you guys are. So Albie is thinking like, boy, it'd be a good idea to leave a note.
Yep. Uh-oh.
There is probably while we're waiting for Sean to come back, Ari is his tongue is tied. He can't write anyway, so it's not that. There's probably someone in town who is lettered who will write notes for you for a small fee.
Or we could just, is there a beggar outside that we could ask to deliver a message or something?
Sure, and that would, I guess that would require whether the person would actually deliver the message and be allowed into Brown Cloak headquarters.
Well, I just meant could, sit on the steps and could tell Elise if she could.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah. I think, Jewel, tell us one person you would trust with delivering that letter. Someone who probably sleeps in the inside the sort of the little hostel area inside the shrine.
Yeah, my friend Anne. I think we could trust her to deliver a message.
Sure.
She's been trustworthy in the past.
Yeah.
I don't see any reason why she would.
And what's the message you wish to leave?
Well, Albie's going to start. He starts off saying, we need to talk to Sergeant Elise, and then it very quickly turns into, how are you doing? I'm very well, and I'm sure that pleases you greatly because we had a real connection between us at the first moment. And then it eventually circles back around to, we're going to investigate the Moore house.
Okay. So I think in the film version of this, so you guys are standing outside right now, and Albie, Jewel has gone and collected her friend, and I imagine Anne is in a similar circumstance to what Jewel is in.
Yeah.
Right. So she's a homeless person. She is, living very rough. She's probably only in her 30s, but looks like she's in her 50s. So Jewel brings her over, and what do you say? Like, okay, Anne, I want you to leave a message, and here's the message.
Yeah, and after he says that, and he's, before I send her off, I sort of whisper to her, don't worry too much about that middle bit.
So, and I think what's happened is, so Albie, you start off the message, and then you're sort of pacing back and forth, and your character seems very eloquent. His fellowship is pretty decent, isn't it?
What is his fellowship? His fellowship's 38, so it's pretty good.
Yeah. So he's going back and forth and about all this talking and whatnot. And while you're doing that, the camera cuts back to Jewel and Anne, and they both kind of look at each other and Jewel's like, don't worry about it. And so you finish up the end, and, because I thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. I look forward to our next conversation, blah, blah, blah. And
well,
Anne's
I think Albie, so specifically his order alignment is pride and his chaos alignment is arrogance. So it's not exactly that he's eloquent, it's that he thinks that he is pretty eloquent.
I love it. Yeah, so when you finish up this stuff, you turn back, and Anne, and again, Anne is a very, very, limitedly educated person and whatnot, so she's kind of like, you want me to say what now?
Well, at least tell her that we're investigating the Moore house. And that the handsome gambler says hello.
So at the mention of Moore House, her head kind of snaps to you, Jewel. She says, "You're not going to Moore House, are you?"
Unfortunately, I think we must. I think Father Gregory might be there and maybe in trouble.
Jewel, what you? What are you going to there for? Let that big one go, the ugly one. And she points at Ebert.
She says, I can handle
Me?
myself, man.
Yeah, I'm talking to you there, ugly.
Who are you calling ugly, you old slag?
Well, I don't doubt you can't afford things. I may be ugly, but I know my own. And this degenerates into a bit of a back and forth between Ebert and Anne for a very brief time. Albie, you worry that the content of the message may have been lost at this point?
Yep.
Okay. Sean, can you hear us?
I can.
Excellent. Okay, so then I
We'll
think
see how long I'm here.
Ari walks out, and what you can hear, Ari, is I think like you have missed all of the conversations that's happened so far. You hear some shouting from outside. You walk out of Father Gregory's room, and you see the door to the front to the shrine is open, and outside you can see that there are two homeless women who are talking, one of which is in a very agitated conversation with Ebert about how ugly each of the two respective parties is.
I come out of my stupor, my investigatory stupor, and say, now, what's all this out here? What's all this? There's people missing. Ace is missing. Let's find her.
Mm-hmm. So what do I think like Ari has actually missed most of the conversation as well. You guys would have known that whatever was happening between Ebert and Albion and Jewel, that's completely missed thus far. So you maybe have forgotten that Ari was here because he is teeny tiny and he was involved in searching the. What was that, Jeff?
I said he was preoccupied.
He was preoccupied, exactly.
I was busy. I was very busy.
Well,
All right, good to have you back. Okay, to be clear, one last time. The handsome gambler says hello, and we're going to the Morehouse.
Anne steps forward to you and says, "You are very handsome."
Oh, I know it.
She kind of blushes. I'll pass that along for you. But Morehouse. So Anne seems very concerned that you're going to Morehouse. This is tantamount to, from her perspective, tantamount to suicide. So,
Anne, is there some particular, do you have any particulars about the Morehouse, or is it just a general feeling?
I think that your character knows that that's what everyone's reaction is to Morehouse. You know,
Okay.
One goes. It's madness to think to go into that place. You know, and from what you know as well too, Albie, Jewel did not know the context of the history behind that. Ari, what we were asking, I think, when we lost you, Sean, was whether your character, you think, would be familiar with more than just the generalities of people don't go there, or do you think you might know more of the history?
Probably not.
Probably not. Okay, so then, Albie, why don't you fill in Ari about what you know about it?
I was gonna wait to do that not in Anne's presence, because that seems like that's kind of just gonna get her more agitated.
You
Who's
got it.
Anne
Yeah,
again?
yeah. So Anne will wait there, and then what is your plan, guys? What's going to happen next here?
did you just ask who Anne was?
Yeah, who's Anne?
Anne is my friend who's going to take a message to Sergeant Elise of what our plan is.
Okay.
And our plan is to go to this house where we found that people are being held, or well, potentially we think they might be there.
Mm.
All we know is that a gang was hired to keep people away from it.
Okay.
And what you found in there, Ari, I'm not sure if you heard or how much you heard of what we were talking about before. What you found in Father Gregory's study was the holy book for the new god. You found some writing materials. You found some a minor personal effects, like the holy symbol to the new god, which is an Ouroboros. It's a snake eating its own tail. And apart from that, there's nothing really. Some personal correspondence, but nothing really that would shine light on his absence. No education. Nobody can write, which is awesome. So then what happens next, guys? Anne is gonna, now I wasn't quite clear here. Is Anne going to the Brown Cloaks headquarters and trying to find him?
To find Sergeant Elise.
Okay.
Yeah, just to kind of sit out front and
and wait to.
If she sees her, then to let her know.
So, and I think she would recognize. Yeah, she would recognize Sergeant Elise as well too. It's the only Brown Cloak who ever makes any appearance in Grievings whatsoever.
Right.
Okay. So Anne will, scamper off down there. She's doing it as I think she's going to need to be paid just a little bit for this, but we don't need to worry about what that is for now. Unless, Ari, do you want to charm her?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah?
I mean, if it's Jules' friend, so if Anne shows some reticence to help, Ari will pitch in with a little bit of encouragement.
I think it's more so whether she's going to need to be paid or not.
I see.
Yeah, and we've already had Albie has already been flirting with her, so I think I would give you a total of plus 20 to the charm. Partly because of your social status, partly because of your what do you call it? Because of the groundwork that was done by Albie.
So I am. I had a question before. So I am lowborn. Is there any social class below me or no?
Good question.
Because my talent is for those above my social class and below my social class.
Okay, hold on here. Let me take a look at the
tome.
The sound of Can you tell I was picking up the core rulebook?
Yeah.
Also, can you tell that I'm aging horribly? Really, a healthy person doesn't make that sound when they're picking up stuff.
Unless they're picking up Zweihander.
This is true. Yeah. Need two hands.
It's a heavy book. Yeah.
There you go, Dan. We've incorporated your catchphrase for the game. All right. Here we go. Social tactics. Lowborn, burger, and aristocrat are the three social classes. So there will be no modifier for social class. Although, it depends on what the NPC is chaos aligned or order aligned. This person, I think, is chaos aligned, which means you're going to get another plus 10 from being the same social class. So you get a total of plus. I guess I was giving you the plus 10 already, so it's a net plus 20.
All right. To charm, right?
For those following along at home, I'm looking at page 414 in the core rulebook. Let's see here, and no problem. All right, so what do we see happen? What does Ari say to convince Anne that she's not going to need something for this favor?
It's for the neighborhood. I mean, these are our friends. We have to find them. This isn't a matter of a service. This is a matter of you disappearing next if we don't find who's doing this.
Her eyes get big and she looks at you, Jewel, as if to say, like, oh, is that right?
There is trouble afoot, and I'm sorry.
So I think because you're not exactly a lady about town, if you're in the same neighborhood, she actually might know Vern as well, too.
Right. Yeah. Vern and... what was the other one? Old Pete?
Old Pete is behind the fallen soldier. Vern was the one from the neighborhood here. I think we said in the first session that you might have recognized Trout as well.
Oh, right. Yeah. I'll just give her some of the names. I mean, those are all sort of homeless people, right? She might know any of them.
Yeah. What were you going to say, Arlen?
Old Pete, Trout, Vern.
Did you know Enid? I'm looking just through the list.
The fortune teller. Yeah, I think, Joel, you knew of Enid.
Yeah. Enid as well.
So her eyes get bigger and bigger, and she's like, all right, she's completely bought in with what you've suggested, Ari.
Do you want to be next on that list? I didn't think so. So
no.
How about you go find a brown cloak?
I'll go. And she goes scampering off. She's completely forgotten the confrontation with Ebert. So, with Anne having left now, it leaves just the four of our heroes together. So, what happens next, guys?
Off to Morehouse, I guess.
Should we wait for night to go to the Morehouse, or try to go during the afternoon since it's still daylight?
Well, so we're choosing to go to Morehouse at night? That's a choice? We're making that choice?
Well, if there are people watching, we might need to sneak by the guards.
Oh,
I feel more protected by the daylight than I feel advantaged by the night, personally.
So just on a metagame thing, you were gonna hold off because we lost Sean for a little bit there. Arlen, Albie was gonna fill in Ari with what he knew about Morehouse as well.
Yeah, I'm gonna kind of gather up everybody and say, all right, so the history of this place, there was a diabolic cultist of some provision and surely of some power that was what caused this particular the particular flavor of rumors around the Moore house.
Mm-hmm.
And now Ebert says there's how did you put it, toffee nosed?
Yeah, a bunch of toffee jerks.
Yeah, some of the higher social class that are paying our gang to keep people away.
Did you say this diabolical cultist lived there?
Well, he doesn't live there anymore, so.
As far as we know.
I'm gonna be willing to roll those dice.
Ain't nobody been seen in those. I know that. Nobody's been seen in there in a generation.
Let's not get cocky, shall we? We have no idea what goes on in there. But okay, I want to save Asa.
Yeah, and you guys are all right. Like, this place has been, since before any of you were born, this place has been a ruin and abandoned. And what you know, Albie, is that this is, it could go back a century for when this, it's that undetermined, like, long ago, someone's been there. But, I mean, from the time of your grandparents, this place has been a dilapidated ruin that has been avoided by any reasonable people in Grievings. So then, what happens next, guys? It sounds like everyone's back up to speed with how much they know about the area. I think, Ebert, apart from knowing that the Rude Boys are one of the local gangs, and I mean, by gangs, it's a successful group. Like, if for an actual group of a gang to survive beyond just like a season or whatever in Grievings, it's got some heft behind it. There is some I guess, like, credibility and financing by way of some kind of illicit activities. So these guys are, it's not a joke to deal with the Rude Boys. They're for sure the gangs that control these neighborhoods are effectively like a militia unto themselves. So that's what you know, Ebert, about the gangs. And I think probably Arlen and Albie, you would know that that's the case with the Rude Boys as well.
Well, especially you said that the Brown Cloaks don't really come here, so
Exactly.
any gang that's going to take over is going to gain, that's gained power would be quite powerful.
Yeah. So what's the approach here, guys? Have we decided you're going during the day, you're going during the night? What are you thinking?
Definitely midnight on the full moon, right?
Yes.
Do any of us know anything about these Rude Boys? I suspect they cannot be reasoned with. Is this the case?
I only know one Rude Boy, and he just intimidated our messenger.
The Rude Boys, what you know, Ebert, and I think you guys all know of this. Like, it's what you think of a low class or like a low class area gang. They are violent. They use intimidation and violence to sort of get their way. They are certainly not opposed to murder if it's necessary. And by necessary, it means, like, if you step funny to them, they will kill you. They're effectively a law unto themselves in their neighborhoods. The thing that keeps them in check is they don't do anything in any of the neighborhoods around to draw the attention of the Brown Cloaks and the rich folk, and they are kept in check by the rival gangs within the neighborhood as well. The Rude Boys are a particularly violent group as well, too. So, as is likely, the case in the shittiest part of Grievings, right? Moorhouse is in the worst part of the worst neighborhood in Crossings.
Perhaps your initial instinct, Albie, was right. It doesn't seem something that a rational person would do, but perhaps the Cloak of Darkness is what we need.
Does anyone have any dark vision? I'm trying to remember I don't think that you get it as automatically as part of one of the ancestries. The only one I'm really concerned with, I guess, is the gnome. I don't think you've got dark vision, do you?
I seem to remember that dark vision is one of the bonuses you can get as a non-human.
Right, and you got yeah, so you did not get that because you got the Goldberg thing, right? Goldbergian.
Yeah,
yes.
I don't.
Dark vision is and it's also fairly situational in this game too. So like elves can get dark vision, but it's only outside in natural environments, and I can see gnomes get tunnel vision. You completely see in the dark below ground, but that's it.
And I don't get that.
You do not get that. No,
no.
that's one of your. That's one of the ancestral talents you can get.
Got
So
it.
that answers my question. So that means that you guys would traveling in the darkness means you being in darkness as well too.
Well, I hate to go to the Morehouse in the darkness, but we may never arrive if we don't get past these rude boys. What do you think?
I guess it's dangerous no matter what. So, whatever you think is the best for our safety.
Ari readjusts his buckler, trying to look tough and ready to go,
Yeah.
and says, "All right, let's do it then." Oh, it's noon, right? Did you say it's still daylight?
It's probably getting on to afternoon by the time you guys have been walking around and talking to people, or you were talking to people, Ebert, and then you guys investigating the shrine. So it's. And what time are you thinking? Are you going to go immediately, or are you going to wait till nightfall?
Probably darkness, I guess.
Yeah, I think we wait until nightfall.
Okay.
So Ari orders a cup of courage.
You're going to meet up at the Fallen Soldier first, and then go from there.
Yeah.
I think we all want a cup of courage.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So everyone, you all meet up at the Fallen Soldier. Ebert, what do you? Is it unusual to see you drinking, or at least like socializing at the Fallen Soldier? Is it your watering hole as well as the place you work, or is it just the place you happen to work?
Yeah, I normally have drinks just around closing, just to get myself in the spirit for final chucking out.
Okay. So Quirion is a little surprised to see you, assuming that you're going to join everyone for a drink to talk about things. And I guess you're having to get the night off too. You have to tell them that you're. What do you tell Quirion that your reason for taking the night off?
Yeah, I'll just say, Korean, I've got to do some personal stuff. But I don't ask for it often. But I could do with tonight off if you can get Charlie to cover for me.
I will. That's and if you don't give him any reason for it, he'll just take you at your word. Partly because he trusts you, and partly because he's a little scared of you. So yeah,
Me picking my teeth with my shiv.
Yeah. So then, is there anything else that happens before we head out into the direction of Moorhouse?
Other than Ari maybe checking his weapons, like he has any clue about them.
Yeah.
He kind of resets them, takes them out of his pocket and puts it back in, and and resets his buckler for the third time.
Yeah. So this is the are we seeing all of you guys weapons on the table, kind of getting things ready, secured and whatnot? This is the
Definitely
pre-mission montage that we see.
Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think, and Albie, he took his stiletto out, but he's at this point, he's manically shuffling his cards over and over because that's his tell.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Love it. Okay. So unless there's anything else then, guys, then we'll cut to evening. Tell me how you guys are approaching Moorhouse and the neighborhood around there. Now, let me tell you what you've seen before. I think those of you who are familiar with it, again, it is in the most rundown part of Grievings. Moorhouse stands as a two-story building of stone with a partly collapsed, peaked roof. Dead grass chokes the small yard out front, and boards cover the house's windows and the front door. The boards... and it doesn't sound like there's any... This is sort of in contrast to the cramped multi-story row houses that we see through all the rest of the neighborhood of Grievings. As you guys step out, there's probably a little bit of fog hanging around or clinging to the dead grass out front. This is a freestanding structure. It is relative to the neighborhood of crossings, Grievings, in the sense that, there's maybe a 50-foot gap between where this building is and the rest of the area is, but it stands kind of illuminated on its own. The moon is partially obscured by cloud cover, but it does require sort of a separate approach to get up towards it. It seems as if the rest of the crowded and cramped neighborhood shuns this one structure, which stands alone. So making your way through this neighborhood in the darkness, you guys successfully navigate your way through, and you get to the last clearing to lead up towards, or not clearing, but square to lead up towards Moorhouse. Moorhouse, even in contrast, or in relation to the rest of the buildings in Grievings, this is a cursed and abandoned structure. What happens next, guys, after you reach the edge of this square where the cursed house stands?
What stands around it, like 50 feet away? Is it so it's other
the rest
dwellings?
of the sprawl of Grievings. So it'll be like, you can picture that there's on one side there is there's an abandoned lot where some shacks and whatnot have been thrown up. There is another house similar to Moorhouse that has squatters and whatnot living in there, or people who just are desperate to hide from whatever else, whatever things that may have driven them to the worst part of the worst neighborhood in Crossings. It's desperate and unfortunate people, and that's what surrounds the area immediately leading in. You are not drawing any attention. None of you guys are from a particularly high class or whatnot, so I think if anyone is making notice of you, they don't pay any mind to it. So what do you do next, guys?
Well, what do you think? Are we?
I'm assuming you went to the front of the house as well, too.
At this point, yeah.
Yeah. And there's no like obvious sign of entry from the front, right? The door's still boarded up. The windows are still...
Correct. Door's still boarded up. The windows on each floor are still boarded up. And it's those, like, grayed, aged wooden boards, too, that have been here for longer than you guys have been here. There's detritus that sits around the outside of it, but likewise, it's been there for so long that it's partially submerged. Like if you leave something on a lawn long enough, then eventually the very progressive drifting of dirt and whatnot starts to conceal it. That's what you're seeing here. That it seems as if no one has spared a thought to this place, apart from "do not go there" in decades.
Now, I got told there had been folk visiting here. Those fancy types, so they didn't come opening those. They must have come in some other way. So there's some other way around here.
So, well, who's this? Who's pretty good at skulking with us? I can skulk a bit.
A bit.
Yeah.
Better than average.
Yeah. Better than average. Well, yes. Better than 50%, as my old man used to say.
Okay. Guys, if what we can do is you can feel free to metagame that part. Your characters would know sort of who's good and who's bad at stealth and whatnot. And rather than, couching metagame discussion in sort of like in-character stuff, we can just talk about that and then decide how that plays out in story afterwards.
A rank gives you plus 10, right?
It does, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm 52 in stealth.
Yep.
I am 53. So
I'm 37.
Who has the ability to re-roll the skill test or to not suffer critical failures? That's Ari, right?
Oh, that's Ari. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Although I could spend one of our fortune points and get an automatic critical success.
That would be pretty beneficial.
Like getting lucky.
Yeah.
That's probably a good call.
So that might be the thing to do, to like stealth around, go around the perimeter and see if we can't find the entrance that anybody who's been going in has been using.
Yeah, I like it.
So to let you know how this would play out mechanically, so this is one of the games where there's contested rolls, so it's not like I don't set a difficulty based on the other like any potentially observing parties' rolls. If you're going to do that, that gives you a crit success. I roll if there is anyone watching, and I would need to at the very least get a crit success to tie you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that seems like a good way to stay undercover for as long as we can.
Okay. Is this the one
Yep.
that makes you take a level of peril too?
Yep.
Awesome. We have our first peril in Zweihander.
Nice.
Okay, so let's see here. So describe for us what does it look like as Albie makes this reconnoitering of Moorhouse?
So Albie kind of looks around one way, looks around the other way, and just sort of doesn't quite scamper, but it's moving at kind of a hustle over towards into the shadow. You know, the moon's casting a little bit of a shadow from one of the buildings on the other side, and he goes over to there, and he sort of steps around and walks around and makes a full circuit of the building, and then comes back to the group.
Excellent. So you guys, by virtue of his crit success, like unless Albie, you want the rest of the party to see you, you're gone.
Yeah.
You know, and actually there is whichever among you is the most suspicious, you actually think for a moment that he may have abandoned you. I'm guessing Ebert is probably the most cynical of them. But he, so he completely disappears from view. And Albie, if there is anyone watching, you completely fade into the shadows. What you can see is at the back, and it looks like there was there may have been a fence at some point here as well too, from the broken remnants. And there's like maybe a bit of holes in the ground, or like a stump left of the post that would secure the fence. Otherwise, any other like salvageable debris would have been stolen centuries ago and used as kindling or whatever else. But what you do see is at the back of the building, the boards that once covered the rear entrance, no doubt the servants' entrance, they lie on the ground, unsalvaged. And knowing this neighborhood as you do, knowing that anything of value, however meager that value may have been, it would have been taken away. That tells you that those boards have been lying there for a very relatively short time. And you cannot make out anything in the gaping hole that is the door frame leading into the back of Moorhouse. So
Albie kind of shows up back among the group, and he whispers to them, "There's a servant's entrance towards the back that looks like the way they got in."
Ari starts, like, all of a sudden, because Albie reappears. You disappeared like a shadow. That was pretty impressive.
And Albie kind of, you can see that he's a little worn. He's maybe a little out of breath from his exertion.
Okay.
And he sort of, wipes his sweat off his brow as if it was nothing.
Okay.
I thought you'd backed out, you bugger.
It'll take a little more than that to scare me off.
Did you see anyone? Anyone moving around?
I haven't seen any people, actually.
And you say there's an entrance in the back?
Yes.
Well, I don't know if I can be as quiet as you were, but I'm willing to give it a shot.
So what are you guys thinking? What's going to happen next?
Did you find a good way to get back there?
So presumably we all want to stealth up. around to the back.
So this is one of those things where I'm not sure that there's a way of doing that. Just by this is it's a clear opening between one and the other. You can try and like, if you were to like create a distraction or something like that for potential observers, then yeah. But I mean, if someone is looking, there's not really shadows to hide in. If you guys can come up with a way of explaining how it would be something other than just you going into the building, I don't know what that would be. I'm happy to let you make skill rolls for it, but I don't know if there is a viable way of getting to it without actually going out in kind of the the wide open leading up to Morehouse.
Well,
So,
what I'm
see-
thinking.
Mhm.
No, go ahead, James.
Yeah, I was just thinking, did you see anybody when you had a shifty around there? Was there anybody looking? Any lookouts and the like?
Not that I could tell, but I wouldn't be surprised if I missed them. What I'm thinking, kind of out of character, is that we don't necessarily need to be unseen. We just need to be unstopped, right? That if we can get kind of close enough to the Morehouse that yes, maybe a lookout sees us, but they're not going to send a cadre of guards out from one of the buildings to try to stop us.
Yeah. Why don't you do this, Albie? I'll give everyone go ahead and give me an awareness check at minus 20. Because I'm assuming that in the absence of Albie, you guys have been kind of keeping an eye out too, and you may have seen something as well, Albie, in the course of checking. Whoa, Albie, check out that roll! Holy smokes! And Ebert as well too. Good job.
There it is.
What about my roll?
Minus
Where
20,
is he?
right?
Ari, the 91 was very good.
I was too busy trying to spot Albie and unsuccessfully.
And Jewel, it's pitch black everywhere. Like, why would you be able to spot anything? What I'll tell you is that Ebert, you're keeping an eye out too, and it's only by virtue of how wary you are. Maybe it's your not to make it's always sunny in Philadelphia joke, but it's your like bouncer awareness. You see very briefly a little flare of red as someone draws on a pipe off on the far side. So there's someone keeping watch over there who's drawn on a pipe. And I think that Albie, maybe when you were making your way back, you saw a figure that seemed to shuffle in place at one point. We can picture that you were about to cross one alleyway, right? And you saw someone shift, and you stopped to see whether they were going to keep moving. And then they did not move again, but you could still see just the briefest of outline of their silhouette. You doubled back to make sure that you weren't seen by them, and then made your way back to the group. So when you guys compare notes, you can tell that there is at least 2 people who are keeping watch, but you do know the positions that they were when you spotted them, and they're in different spots. Both have a very clear vantage of kind of each side of the Morehouse.
I don't know if, given that, I don't know if we're as skulky as you, Albie. I'm concerned.
So maybe if they're covering 2 sides, why don't we distract one of them and then the rest of us go down that side and get in?
Both seem to have a vantage of the back of the house.
And that doesn't even include the possibility that there's people inside the house looking out.
Or others with them.
Or others with them covering other sides, multiple,
Well, I am the smallest. I could use a good plan, but what if I set a fire over there?
I love that this is always we had one time in our Star Wars game someone trying to set a fire in a library. It's a distraction. Oh, man.
What about fire?
Yeah, exactly. I know. So what do you... Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt the discussion.
It could work.
Wreck their night vision.
Oh, tactics.
Anyone have flint and tinder? Or matches?
Kevin,
Let
logical
me
question. Stop it. Cut it out.
Let's see.
I do not have anything to do any kind of fire starting.
Okay.
What do I
I've
have?
got bottle bomb.
Oh,
Is it odd that I have a writing kit and I don't know how to write?
yeah, me too. I noticed now that I go to my items, I have a writing kit as well.
Maybe
Yeah, just
It's an aspirational purchase.
I was just about to say that.
Yeah.
It's the what do you call it? Educational equivalent of like the home workout equipment that
Right.
sits there and just collects dust.
Yeah. What's a mantle?
Like
I have a mantle.
hood.
Okay. It's headgear.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Yeah, it's kind of like a hood so that you can hide your face in it.
And a neck ruff. So that's just something to pull up.
I think it's a
that would be
it's a
like
muff, isn't it? Like
Yeah.
something to
A
keep
muff.
your
a neck ruff's like those white things that you'd have round in Elizabethan times, isn't it?
Ah, there you go.
Oh, wow. Well,
Pretty fancy.
I have a neck ruff. I just want everyone to be
Okay.
aware.
So
You're getting a bit highfalutin for a bit of town, mate.
I have fancy
Not sure I
shoes.
like it.
Fancy shoes too, for your information. It's work gear, as far as you know. Thank you.
So what do we? We're a little past quit time right now. So let's maybe figure out what are we ending the session on as what you guys are doing.
We're ending figuring out that I have no way to start a fire. I think is our.
Okay, so we propose the fire starting, and it seems as if no one has, but we have two illiterates who are happy to write a note.
Right.
They're recording notes. Get
I'm-
Tinder.
Right. I'm refixing my neck ruff.
Yep.
Anyone have any other ideas? As I'm picking through my small bag again for the third time, with nothing to start a fire.
You know what we're going to end with, guys? Is the sound of footsteps coming from behind you. You all turn around and see that there are two figures making their way down your alleyway towards you. And we will see who those figures are in 2 weeks' time.
Let's hope they've got an idea.
Do you have any flint and tinder? Do you have a match?
And
All right.
Ari may be muttering that it looks like we don't need the tender anymore as they walk up.
So then, for those listening at home, thanks so much for joining us for our first actual play of the Zweihander RPG. As always, if you have any comments, questions, or concerns regarding the session, please don't hesitate to leave a comment in the comment section below. We really haven't took a deep dive into the rules just yet, so we haven't had to... If you have any questions about the rules, we may not be able to answer it with examples from our session, but in addition, you can reach me on Twitter at Dungeon Musings. You can shoot me an email. My email address is dungeonmusings@gmail.com. And if you follow a link in the description of the video, you can find a link to the Dungeon Musings Discord server as well, too. So you can find all of us on there. And we have a channel dedicated to all of the games that we run on the channel, including this one under the Sunday Sessions. In addition, you may find a link in the description of the video to something called Heroes Save Villages. That is the charity fundraising campaign that we run on the channel. As of February 1st, I will be updating those, February 1st, 2020. Right now, I have not updated them for 2020, but any donations that are made through that go to benefit the SOS Children's Villages International Charity. It's a really terrific charity that provides safe and supportive living environments for over 80,000 orphaned and abandoned children from around the world in over 130 countries. It's a really amazing organization that you can learn all about by following through the link to Heroes Save Villages. And as of February 1st, we will have a whole host of new options and for donors as well. And all donations go directly to SOS Children's Villages International. None of it goes to any middleman. None of it goes to the channel. It all just goes to help SOS Children's Villages International do the very good work that they do. Last but not least, I want to thank my Grim and Perilous players. So, Jeff, Sean, James, and Arlen, thank you so much for joining me today, guys. We are officially off to the races with our Zweihander campaign. I look forward to seeing what happens to you in this alleyway next time. So, for those listening at home, again, thank you so much for joining us, and until we see you again, happy gaming.